Welcome to the Ravenswood City School District regular board meeting of June 18th, 2025. The meeting is called to order at 6:17 p.m. We'll start with our roll call. Trustee Bloom will be joining us remote. I'm not sure.
I'm present.
Perfect. Hi, Trustee Bloom.
Hi.
Trustee Latu,
Present.
Trustee Tavera,
Present.
and I myself, Laura, am present, so we do have quorum. We will move on to item number 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the agenda?
Through the chair, I would like to pull a couple of items. First being 4A, as I was not here. Item 4Q. And potentially item 4R if trustee Shabongi is here. Comes later.
Thank you. I'd also be pulling item 4D. Yeah. 4D. Any other items? I'll also be pulling items 10 through 12. There are no items for closed session tonight, so we will not be going into closed session tonight. Are you okay? Amazing. So now I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Through the chair, I move to approve the amended agenda.
Do I have a second?
I make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Now we will move on to item number 3. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address anything that is not agendized? If so, this is the time to do so. Okay. We see none, so we will move on. We'll go ahead and start with item number 4. Again, item 4A, 4D, 4Q will be pulled. And so I will entertain a motion to approve the updated consent agenda.
To the chair, make a motion to approve the updated consent agenda, pulling item 4A, 4D, and 4Q.
Do I have a second?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, one more time.
4A, 4D, 4Q.
To pull?
Yeah, those are the
4A, 4D, 4Q. We would only pull 4R
R.
if Trustee Shabomahim was here.
She's not here.
Okay, yeah. So we're approving the agenda minus those 3 items.
Yeah.
Okay, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And then actually for the approval of the agenda, should I update the count to be 4-0 since Trustee Bloom is voting this up? I don't know if I messed up. It's 4-0. Okay. Oh, because you were supposed to. Okay, so now we will move on to item number 5. Oh, let's discuss the full item. Okay. All right, so for item 4A, if Trustee Bloom is online, we still have quorum.
Yes, I'm still online. Can you hear me?
Yes. And so we can vote on 4A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item 4A.
So to the chair, make a motion to approve item 4A.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0-1. For item 4D, we pulled it. Let me say what? We do not have the updated document in order to approve it. For item 4Q, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I pulled the item because we received an email from the Carpenters Local Union 217 with strong concerns about the Salso Corporation. And so with respect to our local union, I don't agree with this contract, and so I wanted to pull it because I don't agree with us moving forward with this organization. Yeah,
Okay. So I will open it up to entertain a motion to approve item 4Q. And if there is no motion, then
it's
okay,
dead.
it's dead. Correct. Okay. I'm not hearing a motion. So then it is. Dead. All right. From there on, we will move on to item number 5, which was our board reports and communication.
Through the chair. I was able to attend EPAC's community grand opening, and it was just a lot of fun to see all the kids in community out there playing on Saturday. So I just want to thank them for hosting that for the community. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be out there on Saturday. So thank you.
Through the chair, my only board report is happy Juneteenth, and that's it.
We will now move on to item number 6, which is our fiscal year budget reports.
So for this item, the presentation was presented to the trustees. There was a public hearing. And so now this is an opportunity for the board to take action. Actually, this is I'm sorry, Jesse. Yeah, we are out of order. So again, it's just asking for the board to take consideration of approving our fiscal budget.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 25-26 budget and resolution number SY 25-40. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And so then we will move on to the consideration to accept the Aspire, EPACS, and KIP Valiant budgets.
Yes. And so this is just information to inform the board, and they do meet the requirements, and this is their budget for 25-26 school year.
So I will entertain a motion to accept EPACS and KIP Valiant budgets.
To the chair, I make a motion to approve item 7B, consideration approved. 6B, sorry, consider Aspire and KIP Balance budgets.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Now we move on to item number 7, which is our LCF, or LCAP and our LCFF local indicators.
And as well as our finance director presented the budget, we had Tina Valentine present to the trustees, and we held a public hearing. And so this is the same presentation, but requesting the board to take action.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the 25-26 LCAP and federal addendum, which is item 7B.
To the chair, make a motion to approve item 7B.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And now we will finally move on to the vital signs presentation.
Yes. So we do have our team members. We have now our assistant director in HR, Austin Batson, who is our former data and assessment coordinator. And we also have Joy Shin, who was our assistant director of strategy engagement, now our director of strategy and academic operations. And I hate to stop us right now, but the board did approve. And I'm not used to this agenda going so quickly, but we did approve the consent agenda, which we officially appointed Rhonda White as the custodial principal. Sorry, Miss White. The agenda moves so quickly. I'm used to coming back from closed session, but she did come tonight to just make sure she's here and appreciative of the recognition and the hire. So congratulations, Rhonda.
All right. Good evening, trustees. Excited to be here tonight to share our end of year vital signs data. As a reminder, we do this 3 times a year to give regular progress updates on the educational health of our students. And specifically, we have aligned these vital signs presentations to our Ravenswood Promise priorities of language and literacy, attendance, and talent. And as you all know, our community action plan, which was published to the community this spring, outlines a clear roadmap of goals and measurable key results in the near term that will help us see how we are tracking towards our Ravenswood Promise vision, which is created with our community. And so I'm excited to be here along with Austin, who will be speaking to the talent pieces of the data. And just want to also recognize Kennedy, our new data assessments coordinator, who supported with some of this and will definitely be a familiar face for upcoming presentations in the future. We always like to ground in our Ravenswood Promise learner profile, which is our vision for what we want to be true for students. And our focus on our 3 priorities is how we intend to do that. And so we will start with looking at our language and literacy, and then attendance and talent. You will see on this slide, and this information will be repeated, our goals for the end of this upcoming school year, and the key results that we were looking at this spring to track our progress. So starting with language and literacy, the big picture here is that our students are making growth, both our youngest readers and our older students who are continuing to use Dibbles and Lectura, as well as iReady, respectively. And we're excited to get into some of the details of that tonight. So starting off with this chart, we are comparing here the beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year assessments in foundational literacy, which is for our youngest students, TK to 2nd grade this year. And the colors here represent the proficiency rates. So whether or not students are meeting benchmarks in the foundational literacy skills for their grade. And so what we want is to see the majority of our students in the blue and green, which represents being at or above benchmark for grade level. Our goal this year was for 60% or more of our students to be at or above benchmark. And while we are not quite at that goal, we want to celebrate that we made proficiency growth from 22% at the start of this year to 49% at the end of this year. So more than doubling the number of students who are, have mastered those foundational literacy skills, which is a huge testament to the work of our educators and all the early literacy teams. And moreover, huge successes for our youngest readers, with 65% of TK students being proficient and 59% of kinders. So those youngest grades are at or above the goal we set for the end of this school year. So we're excited that our focus on foundational literacy is driving towards measurable student outcomes, both when compared to the start of this school year, as well as compared to previous school year as well. And we'll be continuing to use Dibbles and Lectura to monitor proficiency in the upcoming school year as well. In addition, we have been using SIPs to continue to provide instruction and intervention for students of all grade levels in foundational literacy skills. And as you all know, SIPs is relatively new implementation, but we are pleased to share that of all of the mastery tests students have taken this year in SIPs, we had a pass rate of over 94%. Which shows us that when students are being tested on skills in SIPs, they are demonstrating mastery. And that means our educators are also really implementing the SIPs program with fidelity, which is, again, a huge testament to the work of all of those teams and our interventionists. What we want to recognize is that passing mastery tests does not guarantee that students are making accelerated growth. It just means they're mastering the skills that they're being tested on. And so next year, what we'll be looking at is not just whether or not they're mastering tests, but whether students are mastering the specific tests that they need to be making grade level progress. So as we, build our muscles around implementing this curriculum, we'll be continuing to kind of raise the bar for what we want to see in terms of student progress. In terms of iReady growth, this, as a reminder, is our 3 times a year diagnostic assessment that we use in 3rd through 8th grade to measure growth in reading proficiency for grade level standards. And as a reminder here, we look at 2 different measures. First, again, with the colors, you see just relative placement of a student's performance relative to their grade level. And so again, the blue and the green is where we're seeing students who are at or above where we would expect to see them at grade level. And we also look at a measure of growth. So specifically, what % of typical growth our median student is achieving. And so a couple of things to call out here. The percentage of students who are at or above grade level did increase from 6% in August to 15% in March, which is when this assessment was last given. So not quite at the end of the school year. And by that point in March, our median student had achieved 100% of typical growth, which is higher than last year, not quite at our goal of 120%. But again, the assessment was given in March, so the school year was not, quite complete at the point of assessment. And a couple of spotlights to note is that several of our grades did exceed that typical growth. So it's not represented in this chart, but for example, our 8th graders, the median growth was 128%. Los Robles 5th grade was 153%. Castaño 4th grade was 151%. So while our median student was meeting 100% of typical growth, we had many grades where even more accelerated growth was happening. As part of our Ravenswood Promise Community Action Plan, we have set some short-term goals around implementation of curriculum, specifically in Tier 1 ELA instruction. And so this year, we were looking at how we could better support teachers to adopt the new curriculum that has been now adopted district-wide. And we did this by conducting classroom observations in conjunction with site leaders over the last 4 months of the school year. And so this is point in time data and a snapshot, but it gives us a good baseline of how our teachers are feeling with using the adopted curriculum. And overall, we found that on average, about 75% of all of the ELA classrooms we observed were using the adopted curriculum. And in some of our lower grades, this average was even stronger, and teachers were even more closely following the pacing guides for curriculum. As we look ahead to next year, our teams will be focused on curriculum pacing as well as internalization of curriculum content and standards, so that our teachers feel the most supported to deliver all of the instruction that we know our students need in order to have access to all of the grade level content and demonstrate mastery in the standards. Looking ahead to attendance, there are also some wins that we'd love to celebrate here as well. As you all know, we have been on the uphill battle of increasing attendance ever since the pandemic, and we are pleased to share that we have improved both our average daily attendance rate and decreased our chronic absenteeism. And this is really important because attendance represents how safe and how much of a sense of belonging students feel at school. And because when they're at school, that's when they can be engaging in grade level instruction and all of the important life learning that happens in class. And so, as you can see from this chart, which looks at the average daily attendance across the last several school years, while we are not quite yet at our 95% goal or our pre-pandemic attendance rates, we have made significant improvements and are now at our highest attendance since the pandemic, and have grown by over a full percentage point in average daily attendance, which is, as you can see represented here, over like 3,000 student days of instruction. And this was a real team effort that involved everyone from our front office staff to our family outreach coordinators. We did home visits to check in on families and students who were having attendance issues, and really developed some stronger systems around interventions and supports for students and families. So really want to celebrate the team effort that it took, and a lot of the creativity that different sites used to incentivize and support student attendance this year. We are going to keep our ambitious goal of 95% or higher ADA because we know we have hit those attendance rates before. And we don't want this to be viewed as discouraging that we didn't hit that goal, because this level of improvement is really meaningful, even when looking at kind of trends across the state as well. A similar story here for chronic absenteeism, with perhaps some even more exciting wins here. So chronic absenteeism, as a reminder, is a measure of the percent of students who have missed 10% or more of the school year, which obviously has a very meaningful impact on a student's educational health. And this year, we decreased chronic absenteeism by 6 whole percentage points. So compared to 40% at the end of last year, we ended the year with 34% of students being chronically absent, which was our goal as well. So we really hit the goal here of improving attendance for those most chronically absent students, with some of the biggest structural challenges with attendance. And so while again, we're still not at where we would want to be or where we have been since before the pandemic, this is a really significant win. And I just want to express some profound appreciation for the teams at our school sites who have made this happen. And to continue with our efforts of centering student voice, as we have throughout the Ravenswood Promise process, we also continued to do student surveys this year. And we also introduced free response questions in the survey so that students can continue to express their feelings about safety and belonging at school. So what we see in this chart is that a majority of our students, both at the elementary and middle school levels, feel that school is a safe and welcoming place. We've set goals of 80% in the elementary level and 65% the middle school level, based on kind of benchmarks across the state of kind of best practice districts of where students are. And we'll be continuing to do this on a regular basis in the coming year as well, to continue to get a sense of how our students are feeling about school and how we can help them feel even more positively about their experiences. And now I will turn it over to our new Assistant Director of Talent.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for being here tonight. And just again, want to echo what some of the wins that Joy highlighted around our academic wins and our attendance wins. Huge team effort, huge kudos to Joy as well. Super proud of ourselves and our students and our families. Looking to some of our talent updates, a couple of key data pieces for us. We had around 60% of our Ravenswood educators who received regular actionable feedback from their coaches or site leaders. As you'll see in the slide in a minute, this is a new data point for us that we look forward to continuing to track next year. As of the last day of school, 90% of our classroom vacancies were filled. We'll see where those 2 vacancies are left in a second. Some other highlights that we have for next year is that our professional development series sequence will be aligned to our community action plan and key results. And that's just trying to really get everyone in the same direction, have all the supports and opportunities for our teachers, staff, educators to get the support they need. So our first piece of data is looking at actionable feedback. And this chart shows the percent of teachers who are receiving actionable feedback based on teachers who received none in that month, teachers who had 1 actionable feedback event, or 2+ actionable feedback events. And this could have been an interaction with a coach or an observation, informal or formal, from a site leader, so a principal or a vice principal as well. Across the spring semester, we averaged around 60% of our teachers, educators receiving that 60% of feedback 2+ times a month. I think a really exciting data point is that between August and May, our educators received over 1,800 pieces of documented actionable feedback from site leaders and instructional coaches. Looking forwards, we are going to keep tracking this data point and build it out a little bit more, and really try to understand how feedback is being given, and make sure that everyone is receiving the feedback that they need to improve their practice and to make sure our students are getting the best learning experience possible. In terms of recruitment, this visualization, this chart here, shows the school year last year in spring of 2024. And this half on the right shows us right now, spring of 2025. So this year we had far fewer vacancies than we did last year. Last year in the spring, we had around 40 classroom vacancies. This year we had around 20 classroom vacancies. Some of this was structural differences between teachers moving into an instructional coaching position or things like that. So it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison, but we are really proud of our 90% of vacancies being filled. And it's not on this slide, but we had about an 86% retention rate for our classroom teachers this year. And one of the things we're looking forward to for next year is in 25-26, we'll continue to work with our teacher placement programs, teacher residencies, and fellowships to keep building our teacher pipelines and bring in strong educators and build up our Ravenswood community of educators. All right, hand it back to Joy.
So just looking ahead, what we hope to share in the vital signs presentations in this coming year are to continue to track our data in a way that helps us monitor our progress towards our Ravenswood Promise and our community action plan, which is really designed to be transparent and open about our data with our entire community. And we'll continue our focus on language and literacy, attendance, and talent, but again, kind of increasing our expectations for ourselves as we continue to roll out some of these initiatives that have been in a couple of years of implementation now. And specifically, which Austin also touched on, our big focus for this coming year is around coherence and alignment, both within the district office level as well as between our district leaders and site-based leaders, so that all of our educators across the board are receiving the supports that they need to help us bring this promise to life. And so we're looking forward to continuing to share wins such as these in the coming year. And a couple of new data points we'll be introducing as part of this work is our fall key results. So again, key results being the kind of milestone data points we'll be looking at to track our progress towards our bigger goals. So as I mentioned with SIPs, we will be looking at the percent of students who are making progress on mastering specific mastery tests within the SIPs curriculum. We'll be looking at curriculum pacing as a measure of how well our students are getting access to the grade level content that they need to demonstrate mastery in those subject areas at the end of the year. And we'll also be taking a closer look at our multilingual learners and how we're measuring progress in our ELD instruction as well. And that'll be through the support of our multilingual learner team, which was formed this year. And for attendance and talent, we'll continue to look at ADA, chronic absenteeism, and our student survey results, as well as educator feedback. We will be piloting a new culture and climate survey for staff to complete as well as part of our broader recruitment and retention strategy. And we'll also continue to strengthen our evaluation process and just build our evaluators' capacity around that and support all of our educators in understanding that process as well. Thank you. That concludes our presentation.
I guess, does the board want to ask questions, or do we want to take our speaker card? Let's do the speaker card.
Our speaker is RTA President Nicole Sullivan. And then just want to clarify, you want 5 or 2 minutes? 2.
Can you go back to slide 14? So I've been hearing about the 95% attendance goal this whole year, and I haven't really thought much about it, but something just struck me. So we're basing this goal on the fact that in 1920, we met that goal, but that data is very skewed because that was the year COVID hit. So in March, everything shut down. We just counted kids as being here, but they weren't. Let's be honest. Our classrooms were empty online. So, and then when we look at the year before, it was 93 point something. So I'm thinking maybe we should change that goal to be a little lower, like 93 or 94, just so that it matches pre-pandemic data that like was not skewed by COVID at all. So that's just one thought that I was thinking. That's it. Thank you.
I guess that would be the question. Was the 90, whatever, 95.4 free, like up until lockdown, or was it the entire year? And I don't know if that's readily accessible.
My understanding is that this does include data for the full year. So it would include, my guess is that it would include that data for students after lockdowns happen. That's something we can look. Solomon Hill confirms that it does include that data.
Yeah,
So
so
I
I
wonder,
think I'm wondering though, like we can look at the data prior to
Yeah.
the pandemic, March 13, 2020. And I'm curious to see if it's close to 95%, because really it's only the last few.
Like 3 months.
Yeah.
Where if you took an assignment, virtually everyone would be present every single.
Yeah. And I mean, we have looked at the attendance data, and usually the average daily attendance rate stabilizes kind of at a point around 2/3 ish of the way through the school year, where like mathematically the rest of the year does not meaningfully change it too much. So we can definitely take a look at what the attendance rates were prior to when lockdown happened. The year before was 93.8. And so, you know, in the spirit of setting bold and ambitious goals that we believe our kids deserve, you know, we certainly want to make sure they're achievable goals, and we also want to set a high bar for what we know our students and families deserve and can achieve as well. So that's a great follow-up for us to take. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a couple of questions. Can we go to the talent portion? I believe it's slide 18. Can you talk more on bullet 2.2 feedback tracking systems?
Absolutely. I can speak a little bit to it. I think Joy's probably been a little bit more involved in directly developing those systems. Prior to this year, I'm not sure if we had a way of tracking all of the different types of feedback that our teachers were receiving. We obviously were tracking our formals and informal observations from the site leaders, but to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't have a formal system of tracking how many times a coach gave feedback, or did a site administrator give informal feedback that wasn't part of the evaluation process or anything like that. So the development of this system was started this year and will be continued going forward.
Yeah, I think that's just to add a little bit more color to what Austin has shared as well. One of the things that was developed this year was specifically for our coaching program were both kind of coach-facing data trackers as well as site leader-facing data trackers. So coaches and the educators that they were coaching had a regular way to track the conversations and interactions they were having in specific areas that the coachee wanted to continue to receive coaching on. And then there's sort of a kind of more anonymized version of that site leaders have access to, so they understand the frequency with which coaches are meeting with the teachers that they're working with. And then similarly, there was not a way for us to know either within a site or across sites the frequency with which site leaders were observing classrooms and giving feedback, whether, you know, in person or written down, to educators on what they were seeing. And so we started doing that this year so that coaches and site leaders could plan within their teams how to make sure they were visiting as many teachers as possible to spread the feedback in a way that more people got those touch points and were supported in improving their practice. So getting more visibility into the frequency and I guess concentration of feedback conversations that are happening at our school sites.
Noted. My follow-up question is, do we have a tracking system in which staff provide feedback for the district on areas that they feel need improvement within this process?
Yeah, I don't know, Gina, if you want to.
Within the coaching, within the feedback process?
Just in general, if we have staff members that are going through coaching and stuff, and they see that there's areas in which our district can improve in, A, do we have a system of retaining that feedback? And B, what are we doing with that information?
They don't have feedback in terms of using the coaches to give feedback on the whole district system or within the school site. We did 360s this year. So feedback was given directly to the site leaders and to the executive team. But I think that's an area where, and I've done listening campaigns and what have you, but I think that is an area that we can always improve for two-way feedback for team members, regardless of titles, to give feedback on the site or the district at large.
Yeah, I think when I look at a lot of the bullet points, it's us giving the feedback, it's us doing the coaching. But I also want there to be an avenue in which the people that are in the classrooms every day can also have a say and what's going on the campus. Because I don't want it to come at the end of the year where they said, you know, we had this feedback throughout the year, but nothing went through. And so we have to wait all the way until the end of the year because I feel like that's wasted time.
Absolutely.
And so I want our staff to feel like they can have a say so that we can
Sure.
make adjustments
Absolutely.
as we go.
And that's part of, so if we look at the looking ahead piece, the culture and climate survey, which will be launched starting this coming year as part of the HR team's efforts, will be designed to capture that sort of more frequent feedback from all staff throughout the year, not just once at the end of the year as well. So that'll be an additional avenue beyond the opportunities that that folks already have to engage in some of these conversations.
Okay.
Can I just elaborate a little bit more around the actionable feedback? Because we do understand that the teachers are one of the ones that have like the most leverage in making impact on education. And so we do want to make sure that we have this culture where feedback is welcomed, especially when it comes to instruction. And what I also hear though is an opportunity for not just teachers, but also all team members to be able to have influence on improving systems at sites and districts. Right?
Yeah. Like my biggest thing is I want our staff, when we talk about retention, I want them to work for an organization that they believe and have trust in. And I believe that we've worked really hard to get to where we are right now, but I still believe that there's gaps that we can have improvement in. And I want to make sure that we're moving towards them, because when I see a lot of these points, it's like us telling, like, let me coach you to be better. Let me do this. But I also want there to be intentionality of like, we're listening. It is a two-way, an equal two-way. And that's just my initial thought on seeing this. Can I go on to my next point through the chair? Let's go to slide 10. All right.
Sorry, can you guys turn on your mics? I can't hear. So is the mic
I'm
on?
so sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
For my I would, what does daily observation schedule look like for our principals? Like how much time, and I know we only have one principal here, one principal. Yeah. But what does that look like? And then does that also mean that I would hope, but I don't want to just hope and assume, but does that also mean that every principal, has observed every classroom teacher, or I don't know. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, just I want to
Yes.
a little more elaboration on that bullet point. Yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So the expectation is that we prioritize classroom observation and give instructional feedback. We haven't hit the ideal percentage of principals being in classrooms on a regular basis at every single site. And it's not just principals, it's also our vice principals, as they're also we're supporting them to be instructional leaders as well. But we have increased the amount of time in the classroom. Can it improve? Absolutely. Is it done more efficiently in other school sites compared to other school sites, in one school site compared to another? Yes. And I believe it's based on how you utilize your resources, your human capital, and what you actually prioritize. And so that's the shift we have been making. And I've been very direct and explicit with site leaders about that expectation and follow-ups and feedback accordingly. And, as we move forward with summative evaluations and what have you, that's all part of the evaluation of site leaders. So, be frank, yes, some are doing this more proficiently than others, but this is a growth area for us in general, as we now have clear goals, clear expectations, and the focus on our leaders being instructional leaders. And for example, we went from and maybe Rhonda can speak to this, we went from Just what do you do every day? Put that on your calendar to, okay, let's prioritize classroom visits, put those on your calendar. Great. And now let's prioritize the frequency of who you've seen and who you haven't seen. And there's still work to be done with that.
Thank you. Yeah. And then my colleague, I know how, yeah.
Yes, slide 10. Where do I start? I'm aware that this is where we're at. Like, I'm aware that this is where we're at with our reading. I'm aware that this is where we're at with our reading data. But I don't know how many more years we can come before our community with similar data points. And so I know that, and I'm thankful for our staff, and I'm thankful for our district. But we need to continue to make radical changes and really think about what we need to do to improve these numbers. Because this is 901 students, and of them, 144 is that reading level. So as a district, and I'm taking responsibility as well, because we're all Ravenswood. This is one Ravenswood. We're all reps in this. So what else do we need to do to help improve these numbers? I'm still going. Is it additional funding in specific areas? Is it, and I know that we have a plan, we're moving on this plan, but when the numbers look similar to the previous year, that's an entire year difference. And we're moving on this road. So I want us as a district to continue to look at our numbers and figure out more ways that we can improve, especially here. That's it.
Great. Yes. So what you see here on the iReady is grade level proficiency. Grade level proficiency. What this does not show you is the progression students have made to improve where they currently are. So it's similar like the state test. You're only going to see proficiency rates, but then what we have done is measure progress through moving towards getting closer to standard. Because if a student is 3 grade levels below, they are not going to be proficient in 1 year. And so we have to use progress monitoring to show progress and growth. So what we showed earlier was our foundational literacy and the progress we made with our foundational literacy. That is TK through 2nd grade who are going to be set up for success so that when they do take 3rd grade benchmarks and state tests, we should see an increase in proficiency by the time a kindergartner is assessed in 3rd grade in 3 years, as our community action plan states. So next year, we hope, based on our community action plan, that we will increase by 15 points towards standard. And our benchmark this year, throughout the year, is supporting us, and we are actually very optimistic that we will reach that goal by the end of next year. In 3 years, based on our community action plan, we should ensure that 30% of our 3rd through 8th grade students will be proficient if we stay the course with our foundational literacy instruction, our interventions during universal tier 2 time, and our tier 1 implementation of our curriculum. We should be really proud of the progress that we've made. And to your point, Trustee Latu, yes, it is still disheartening to see students not proficient at the end of this year, but we also already have promising marks that we are seeing from our CAS scores that show the progress that we've made and what the teachers have done, and the mind shifts that they've made this year have already impacted student outcomes. And I don't think you were here at the board meeting, but at one of the board meetings, we were able to celebrate 13 middle school students who made 3 to 4 years growth to be proficient in reading or above. So there is progress, but the overall is not witnessed here. But that's why we have our community action plan. We have to lay the groundwork There's been a lot of shifts in practice this year. And I know we've worked closely with RTA, we've worked closely with the principals in terms of, and our instructional leadership team of identifying key practices that we are going to launch in 25-26. And so I wish that we could move more quickly, but we had to lay the groundwork, change mindsets, change practices that we're accustomed to doing. And we already saw that progress this year through our foundational literacy, the mastery tests, and as well as individual student progress. And we should see by the end of next year, 25-26, that distance from standard to improve. In 28-29, 30% of our students being proficient. And then in 2032 to 33, is it 70%? I think it's close to 70%, 10 years from now. So we have to lay the groundwork and we have to set the vision. And we're meeting those key results. In the last slide, it's the second to last slide that shows what our key results are going to be in February. If we are projecting that if we hit these key results in February, we're on track to hit our 25-26 goal. Now, that second row, the white one, where it says improve distance from standard by 15 points across all grade levels, that is to this, and Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, or Kennedy, our new assessment data coordinator. If we improve by 15 points, that is significant progress defined by the state. And some of our schools this year have already hit that based on some data that we're getting. And so if we continue this trajectory, we have students who might be 2 grade levels below now are going to be proficient by the time they leave Ravenswood, which is our learner profile Ravenswood promise. So I'm as this data might set tone, the progress that we've made and what we've been reporting out at these board meetings is significant growth and progress, not only in student outcomes, but the practices that we're doing as a team in Ravenswood.
Through the chair, I was at that meeting, just to make note. What I'm saying is, we've heard this 2 years ago, we've heard it 4 years ago, we've heard it 6 years ago, and I get it, we're setting a new foundation. This is only year 2.5 of vital signs. What I'm saying is, our community continues to come back and say the same thing with our reading schools. And I get it, and I get it. We have an action plan, we have the Ravenswood promise. I get it. What I'm saying is, we hold the accountability. Us as a board, you as a superintendent, us as a district. How many more years if we keep saying it's going to happen and it doesn't happen?
It's going to happen in 25-26. It's going to happen in 28-29. It's going to happen in 2032, 2033. That is our Ravenswood promise. That is our Ravenswood promise. We have our goals set. We have our benchmark and our key results set. We have our instructional leadership team set. We are committed to making these goals. And I soon we will have our test results. Austin has already scheduled meetings with our principals on Monday. I think majority of them are all, and they're already actually probably ahead of the game and looking at individual students and trying to do their own mental math. Because there's been a lot of excitement in students moving from one level to the next, from level 1 to level 2 and level 3 to level 4. And we really make those gains. I just got off the phone with CCEE, with the differentiated assistance team, and they were saying, Ravenswood, you're using some, and I wish I could keep the term in my head, but progressive monitoring that really will make an impact on student outcomes because we have these key results. And I just gave a presentation on the Ravenswood Promise to City Council last night, and they were really impressed. And because when we first shared the Ravenswood Promise at first, it seemed abstract, the fact that the community, and we have the learner profile and we have the community action plan that was very explicit, Councilmember Romero was like, it takes a lot of work to shift and move. And I see you guys doing it. Councilmember Barragan, as well as Councilmember Lincoln. Who's one more? Oh, Councilmember Mark Dime was also praising the work that we have done, and data speaks. And so the proficiency levels speak volumes, we also have to acknowledge that we finally have a clear plan that the board has asked us to do. This is a community action plan, is a clear roadmap that we did not have before. We've had pockets of success. We have students who've been in Ravenswood, who have been successful, who've been mayors and athletes and what have you. But our mission is not pockets of success. Our mission is for every student. And this community action plan has that commitment and clear roadmap to ensure that.
Through the chair. I think one of the things that's probably different in this presentation than our last presentations is that we're getting just the end of the year, like altogether data versus I think the years prior we've had like lots of data where we showed like the student growth and how many levels they went up in the different months, right? Or not the different months, the different throughout the year from beginning of year, end of year. And I think that there's some of that in, sometimes we have it in the appendix, but I don't think it's in this appendix. And so I think that the highlight here is that, you know, like 3 of those grade levels, the 4th, 5th, and 8th grade graders did meet our goal of 120% of typical growth, right? So I do want to commend our staff and our teachers and our group that where we are working towards it. It is slow and it's not going to show up in like huge numbers on this end of the year, like benchmark data, but there is growth happening in every single student's classroom, I would hope. And for every student, right? And it's just how much can we accelerate it versus so that we can see more blue and more green. So I do want to say, like, you know, some of the stuff, even like the fact that it was taken in March versus April for end of the year, because there is so much learning that happens between March and April. Even March and May, right? March through the end of the year, there's just so much learning that happens there. You know, and so I think that there's some stuff that maybe we haven't captured fully in this March data that I do want to, you know, fingers crossed, hope for. But I also think that as we're moving forward and just seeing those TK through 2 numbers, that was really great just because it does give us that idea of like where we want to be, right? Our goal was for 60% to be at or above, and we were at 49%, whereas the year before, you know, that is, I can't do math in my head that quickly. But you know, we have such like we've made growth from last year, especially in that very critical stage, which is that TK through 2nd grade stage, because that is where we lay the foundation for reading. And so I am hopeful for what we see in the next school year, so that 3rd through 8th grade graph looks different and looks a lot more blue and green, or a lot more blue, green, and orange, or blue, green, and yellow versus that much red. So I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful. I'm also, we sat in meetings, I think it was the beginning of the year when we did one of the community action plans, and one of those was how do we talk to parents about our report cards, and how do we share with parents on how to read their students' report cards? What are teachers actually showing parents when they come in for the report cards? And we started showing this data, and that was something that was happening in the middle of the year. That wasn't happening before last year. So I do want to say that there is progress that is being made, and there is, shifts and mindsets that are happening and changing, and even just conversations that are happening with families and in our community that is going to shift and change the mindsets of, not just shift and change the mindsets, but also shift and change our data. So I will say that it's still in that pilot phase, right? Like we have pilot, and we're in that pilot phase still. And I feel like we're just starting to end that pilot phase, where it feels like we have a lot of really strong systems in place, and even just accepting that we're going to be doing SIPs as our English, because we saw how our ELAs, because we saw how much progress students made. Those small things and those small changes are going to continue to make hopefully bigger changes in the next year. So I do want to say great job in having like such amazing high goals where I was like, are we going to get close? And to see us get very close this year makes me really hopeful to see what we can and will do in the next couple of years.
To the chair, I just want to add a comment. I think I echo some of the comments and the feelings of my colleague, Trustee Law too. I think I feel the pressure. I think we all feel the pressure as we sit here as a community. And I've said that when I even applied for, to be here. But I'm very proud of where we are and where we've come from. And I said that years ago. This isn't the Ravenswood of the past, and I think even as last week, we made some as a board, some very data informed decisions as a board towards curriculum and assessment recommendations, for the future, for our district, for our students. Data informed decisions based off piloting programs that are showing great success for our students. And I feel pressure every day because I do echo the concerns of my colleague, because we are responsible to our community. We are responsible to voters, to our families, to our students. But I think we're making positive steps forward, and just I'm just reminded that the road to success it runs uphill, and planting the seed is not the day that we're going to see the fruit. And so I just want to commend all the work that's being done, and it's seeing all that red is not nice. I feel it. So I do echo those sentiments, but again, we're making positive steps forward, and we want to celebrate the good work. And I celebrate the good work even in my own daughter in her TK report card, which is not it doesn't even seem very real because she's in TK, but you see it the beginning of the year, yeah, exactly. And in that final report card that she got for this year, it shows me like the beginning of the year, where she was and how she didn't know all her, like she knew her letters, but and start and her some of her sounds, but she didn't know all her numbers, or she can only get to a certain point. And it was tracked in the middle of the year. You saw the growth, and then at the end of the year, how everything she was like mastering or above and all that. So again, just knowing that, again, echoing the sentiments of my colleague, and feeling that weight of the pressure. But I think that's the pressure that drives us. And knowing that, yeah, I think it just proves how serious we feel about the work that we're doing. And that's what I'd like to add to the comments that have been shared so far.
Are there any other comments? I guess I'll round us out and just say thank you to the team, and especially since it's summer now, I hope you take some time to kind of just get the rest that you can get, because next year it's more of this, and hopefully we'll keep seeing the results, right? We know that you're working very, very hard. I know that the teams are. And hopefully we do see it next year a little bit more, right? Because we do see it now, and I want to celebrate what we see already. But I will double down on what Trustee Law 2 offered. Like, what is it that you need? And please don't be shy to ask. Like, reach out and we can try to figure out a way to, like, is it more support? Is it more material? Is it more PD? Like, whatever it is, and that way we can try to work and get everyone to a point where they feel comfortable with the plan that has been set, because a lot of work has been already set up. The groundwork is there. And if anyone needs help or additional support, like, please don't be shy, because we all want to work towards that. And so as a board, I think we're all open to hearing like what it is that we need. I feel like I constantly hear from our wonderful partners at REF, like, what is it that they need? Like, tell us. And I'm like, I don't know. And so if there is something that you need, like, let us know so that we can try to help you and find some way that supports everyone, so that everyone's working towards the same vision. But thank you so much for the data, and thank you so much to all the staff, and and students and everybody who are making progress. But we are here to listen. And if there's anything that we can do or push on our end, we are always open to hear it so that we can push on your end as well. Thank you. And with that, we'll move over to superintendent's report.
So yes, I just want to commend the work that our instructional leadership teams, our executive team, our site leaders, and the teachers every single day in the classrooms, as well as our classified staff who've been closely involved in the development of our community action plan. And Trustee Tavera, you made a great point. We've created the rows, we've laid the groundwork, we've literally planted the seeds, and we've already started seeing the fruit. And we, again, have some clear goals and benchmarks along the way. Yeah, every student has that opportunity to have an transformative educational experience. And I appreciate the board charging us with developing a plan. When it comes to what else is needed, that's where that two-way communication and feedback could be important to see what could be helpful for team members to feel grounded in the work and supported. And, we just approved our budget for 25-26 that is truly aligned to the strategies that we feel will impact student outcomes, whether that's the one-on-one tutoring, the virtual tutoring that will be offered at the middle school and Bellhaven, whether that's expanding our partnerships with City Year at all 4 schools to ensure we have just the right number of reading intervention teachers at the elementary, to ensuring and prioritizing school-based mental health therapists. Every site prioritize school-based mental health therapists to ensure that our kids are ready. And if not, do we have the services to support their social emotional needs to be ready to receive the rigorous instruction that our leaders and classroom leaders will be delivering each and every day. I'm proud of the work that we're doing, and the goals that we have set is because we are not there yet. But we will, and that's what the Ravenswood Promise is about. And I appreciate the support from the board in investing in our Ravenswood Promise. As 25-26, it will be a telling time. But we're prepared for it. Before I also, as part of the superintendent report, there's 2 more things. One is because we did table an item, we are going to have to coordinate a special board meeting in July. And that item is 4Q. Just be mindful of that. And so we'll be reaching out to try to find a time that works in July. And then I didn't give Rhonda White her proper flowers. And so wanted to know if there was any comments that Rhonda would like to make under my superintendent report as our new permanent Castano principal. Can you mind please coming up to the front? Brief remarks.
Good evening, Superintendent Sudaria, President of the board and board members, family, staff, and community. I was not prepared to make a speech, so I'm just going to say I am thankful to have went through the process and survived, and I am no longer the interim principal, but I am the principal of Castano, and I am prepared to be in service for our community and making sure that I live by what's best for our kids. So my door is open. Come and see me. Hope to see more of you. And I appreciate the support and the criticism and the love. Thank you.
All right, with that, we will move on to item number 13, which is consideration to approve resolution number SY 25-39. I will entertain a motion to approve resolution number SY 25-39.
The chairman to approve.
Do I have a second?
The chair make a second. Resolution number SY 25-39, board member excused absences, whereas Education Code 352120A5 authorizes each member of the governing board, the state school district action tens, et cetera, for trustee Shaboni.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I think I heard trustee Bloom, so 4-0.
Yes, I
4-0. The next regular board meeting will be held on August 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. and open session will begin at 6:45 p.m. So with that, our regular board meeting of June 18th, 2025 is adjourned at 7:27 p.m.
Good night, Trustee.